Welcome to the Coming Home Well podcast, the show that educates, supports, and advocates for the veteran community. Your host, Dr. Tyler Pieron, U.S. Army retired, will bring you exciting conversations with amazing guests about resources, research, and military history, all geared to helping our warriors to come home well. Here's your host, Dr. Tyler Pieron.
Welcome back to Coming Home Well. I'm your host, Tyler Pieron, and today we're going to talk to an attorney that specializes in veterans benefits. Instead of talking to someone from the VA or a state Department of Veterans Services, we're talking to a private attorney that deals with these things on a day-to-day basis. Because as I was thinking about it, the way that we approach things is going to be different depending, A, where you are, but also how you do it. We're going to talk about some of the challenges about finding a good attorney if you need one, or finding good VSO, but also claim sharks. And more importantly, something that I think is something that we really need to get a little better handle on, especially for the veterans that are really disabled, is also Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. It tracks well with the VA, but there are different standards, and it's not 100% clear. You can go and do a Google search, and the criteria is very different. We all understand VA math. If you don't, go watch one of our other videos. We've talked about it a bunch. But SSDI has a whole different set of rules and processes, and they don't use the percentages the way the VA does. So we thought we'd talk about that. To help us with this, we have James R. Byrne. He's an attorney out in the Pittsburgh area, and he's also got a very long history of dealing with the VA and helping veterans get their things done. Jim, thank you so much for joining us on Coming Home Well.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to your listeners, viewers. I look forward to the opportunity to have the conversation. Much appreciated.
So you haven't served, if my memory serves, but you focus on veteran law, and I'm always fascinated how that comes about. So what really interested you in veterans law, which is, a very kind of niche subject?
Niche is a good way to put it. And then when you open up the niche box, you get into quantum physics in VA law. There's a lot of twists and turns. But what brought me into it? I think it's in my DNA to serve. My grandfather went into Pearl Harbor after the attack. He was past the age. He went in. He served a couple years there. My relatives, I have relatives who were in Vietnam. My nephew was in the Marines for a couple years. My younger son is in his third year right now. At VMI, he's signed his contract with midshipman, so it's
just down the road from us.
He's right down there. We'll be down there to pick him up. He gets his ring in 2 weeks, so we're looking forward to that.
Oh, that's fantastic!
A lot of tradition down there. I love that school. Love it. It was his choice. We're very proud of him and all those who are stepping up to lead our next generation. So, in the short answer, in the blood, I served 12 years as mayor of Millville Borough, which is where I am now, right out 3 miles from the city of Pittsburgh. And then another 8 on the Allegheny County Council. So it's been in my blood to give back. And when you look at the opportunity to serve as a public official at any level, in any capacity, you look at the foundation upon which you have been given that opportunity. And that has been given by those women and men who have been out there to defend our democratic republic and give us the opportunity no nation has ever had to do what we do. So I work and practice in a blanket of freedom and opportunity that these heroes gave me and so many others. So it's a calling. I've been a lawyer since 1988. It's a job I love to give back and to help people in need. But since I've been doing VA, it's different. It's a calling. It really is. It's something that you feel compelled to do, that you want to do, and that it's passionate. So I guess the short answer is giving back, and especially to those who have given me the opportunity to be in this position.
I always love hearing things like that because we always talk about, what can I do? How can I help? And what can I do to help the veterans? And this is really one of the few areas where it's such a direct and meaningful impact on the quality of a veteran's life after they get out. Now, obviously, not everybody gets VA benefits. But if you have 20 years of continuous combat with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people deploying, you're going to have a much increased workload of people
Yes.
getting benefits. I mean, it's 24 years since 9/11, and
Yes.
we've had people in combat continuously since then. Even today, we have people in combat. So that's always an amazing thing to me to think about. So, Jim, you've been doing VA law and helping veterans for a long time.
Yes.
What is some of the issues that are going on that veterans come to you with? Like, obviously, putting in a claim can be pretty easy. The VA does make it pretty easy nowadays, all online.
Right.
There's a lot of veteran service organizations that'll help. Why should somebody seek out an attorney?
I think the best answer to that is because of what happens after, and you said it, it's easy to file. In fact, they named the form to file a claim a 526 EZ. You go through it, it asks a series of questions. You always select standard claim process. You don't need a lawyer to file that 526, but that's about where the linear stops and the quantum begins.
Yeah.
Once you throw that pebble into that pond, here it comes. We have received your claim. We are working on your claim. We need the 4142, the 4142A. Well, that one box didn't seem to be checked. Or, well, you've put in for this before. No, I never put in anything before. It starts to become a paper chase, a paper trail, and it starts to expand into a lot of subcategories. It starts to get complex. And the Code of Federal Regulations, the CFR that shows us where to go and what to do and how it all works, is very thick with a lot of
Hmm.
subdivisions. So the short answer is accredited representation. Once you file and you get your decision, they work hard, they try to do the right thing, but oftentimes it's not as much as it should be, or issues have been missed. And then you need a good, experienced, accredited navigator to get you through that jungle. And that's
Hmm.
what myself and my colleagues who are accredited are here to do.
So a simple claim, normal, easy things with lots of evidence, that seems pretty easy. But the more complex claims, for a long time, we didn't have the presumptives
Right.
for the Gulf War. We didn't have it for Agent Orange, a number of things. And people had to prove that X happened in the service and they have a problem today. So, what are some of those issues that you're seeing, especially with the new laws
Yes.
that have really sort of changed the game, especially with the presumptives?
Yes.
Are you seeing a lot more claims, a lot older folks? What are you seeing from your perspective?
All of the above. All of the
Hmm.
above. And although it sounds very basic and binary. Hey, this was a layup. I was a paratrooper. My knees are shot. I have herniated discs. I have a hip replacement. I made hundreds of jumps. I was at the 82nd Airborne. It's on my DD-214. I put in a 526EZ. They still may deny it. They
Oh yeah.
still may deny it.
I mean that
So,
that's a running joke in the veteran community
oh,
is, like something horrific happens, someone lands rough and they're like, "Oh, that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
service connected."
Right. I mean, you'll see the decision. You put in for this, and your D214 shows that favorable. We're denying it. Favorable findings. Yes, you have the diagnosis. Yes, you were in the 82nd Airborne. Well, then why did you deny it? Now I have to go get a nexus letter. I have to go get a doctor to tell me 1 + 1 = 2. You
Hmm.
already said 1 + 1 in the favorable findings, but why didn't you say it equals 2? But the complex ones, the PACT Act, for example, you talked
Oh
about
yeah, that's
presumptives.
exactly what I was referring
Yeah,
to.
the PACT Act was revolutionary in 2022. It did for the Gulf War veterans, to make a basic analogy, it did to the Gulf War for the Gulf War veterans, similar to what some of the changes back in 2010, 2011 made with Agent Orange presumptions. This did for the Gulf War veterans what those laws 15 years ago did for the Vietnam veterans, and the PACT Act added a few presumptives for Vietnam veterans as well. What is a presumptive? Before these legislative sweeping pro-veteran changes happened. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I have serious heart conditions. I served in Vietnam. Well, I filed my claim. It's denied. You need to get a doctor we believe you have it, but you need a doctor to tell me that it is at least likely as not. Those are the magic words. At
Hmm.
least likely as not, which is a 50-50 presumption, the lowest in any type of law. that it's connected to your service. You need to take that extra step. What does a presumptive do? It takes away the extra step of getting a doctor to write you that connector report, that nexus report. So now the veteran who would have been denied previously for the heart condition in Vietnam comes in post changes, or the veteran with certain types of cancers. There's over 20 presumptives in the PACT Act. You can Google it, you'll find them. He doesn't need the report anymore. Comes in with a kidney cancer. He used to need a report. He comes in with a diagnosis of kidney cancer, 526EZ, PACT Act presumptive. He should get it. Sometimes they still get it wrong. And so, yes, but the presumptives and the opportunities they've given us to encourage veterans to file those 526 forms, and we'll file them for them. I mean, we'll do it as a service. If they get it right, congratulations. If they don't, and sometimes, well, you know the deal, they do. We're here to navigate. So yes, presumptives, PACT Act, the Agent Orange presumptions a few years back. These are good pro-veteran pieces of legislation. And if I may, they have expanded on Agent Orange presumptives some of the Air Force bases outside of Vietnam. Some of the bases are presumptive, some are not. A veteran who was at Kadena Air Force Base who saw the canisters and has a heart condition, he doesn't get the presumption. We're working on getting Kadena to be admitted as a place where you can get a presumptive. But the veteran who's at a different Air Force base where there is a presumptive, same facts, different geography, one needs a report, one doesn't. It's a complex process, but I am encouraged by the PACT Act.
Yeah, the PACT Act was, I've heard it described as the most significant legislative change to veterans' benefits in at least a generation.
I would agree. I would agree.
So, I was thinking about, you were talking about Agent Orange, and I've had folks on to talk about Agent Orange and also lawyers talking about how they were able to help veterans that served in Thailand, where they used Agent Orange, along the perimeter. And I was thinking about, let me ask you, what is probably the most difficult, challenging, or unique case that you've handled as an attorney with VA claims?
Okay. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got so many, and it's hard to pick one.
There are a lot of them.
I'm always interested in the real deal kind of hey, this is a no kidding challenge.
A veteran came in with certain conditions. It was at the appellate level, and additional evidence was needed. Additional evidence before he came to us. Before she came to us, there were some steps that should have been taken, or perhaps with some accredited advice would have been taken before it got to the Board of Veterans Appeals. The evidence and information at the board level was not adequate to win the case. We were able to get additional time, submit some additional evidence, and win that case and get some retroactive benefits. There was another one where an individual, she had lost at the VA level, and it was a VSO had just impulsively filed a board appeal requesting a hearing, which can take at the board level currently 5 years, four to 5 years.
Isn't that amazing?
It is, and she was nervous about the amount of time it was going to take. We were still within the 1-year appeal window to preserve the earlier effective date, meaning once you initiate a claim, the clock begins to tick. If you get an adverse decision within 365 days, if you make a move, you preserve that onset date. So it keeps moving back here from where you filed. She was within the 1 year of when the VSO filed the direct review. So we didn't want to lose any of that back benefit. I'm looking at it thinking, well, wait a second. We just need on a supplemental claim some new and relevant evidence. Let's get a good nexus letter. It wasn't a presumptive. Let's withdraw the appeal from the board while we still were in that 1 year gap, and then start it into the supplemental claim lane, which we did, got some evidence. She hit on that case all the way back to the beginning. Instead of having to wait 5 years, it was 2. Still a long time, but it would have been a much longer time. And after you have your hearing after a 5-year wait, you still might be waiting 12 to 18 months unless you can plead a certain situation. So you're looking at over half a decade. And
that's
for
crazy.
For the veteran who's listening, when they did the AMA, when they revised, the American Modernization, they redid how we do these things. When you come in with your initial claim and you get a decision, you got 3 options. Within a higher level review, which I call the instant replay appeal. go back in and say, hey guys, could you look at all this stuff again? I think you missed some things. I call like the red flag challenge in football. You said my client's foot was out of bounds. Look again, it was clearly in bounds. Higher level
Hmm.
review. Supplemental claim. Go in, ask them to look at the film again and show them some additional evidence. Or the board appeal, which is direct review, which is higher level review by the board, which is maybe a year. Uh, uh, Evidence submission, file it at the board level. You got 90 days to put some more evidence in, or hearing 4 to 5 years. So those are your options. Knowing based on the facts and the law and your client's situation, which one of those to go in their best interest to have the best result is critical knowledge for accredited representatives to know.
So if you do an HLR, a higher level review, basically instant replay, do
Yes.
you lose any of the other options? I mean, because otherwise, it sounds like that would be the first step, like in 99.9% of the time, going, hey, you missed this. It's right
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
Maybe, or if the evidence wasn't available at the time and it is now, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I do see that with other people that are filing claims. I always describe the VA process as just like any bureaucracy that you'll ever deal with in the military. If you
It's
give them what they're expecting in the format that they're looking for it, and A and B are like you said, 1 and 1 is 2.
mhm.
Did it occur in service? Was there a treatment record? And is it currently a problem? Now,
That's
a lot of
100%.
times bad things happen and people don't go to the doctor.
Right.
My wife had a bad, she was a parachutist. She had a bad landing, was all banged up, but went to the aid station and they're like, here, have some Motrin and you'll be fine. And her hip still bothers her to this day, but she didn't
Mhm.
go and talk to, like there wasn't that much follow up
Right.
because like hey just I went and saw the medic, the other E4 specialist at the aid station,
Mhm.
and there's no record of it, but it clearly it occurred in service and is a problem today. But that's the hard part, is a lot of times people are discouraged from getting treatment, and so they don't have those contemporaneous medical records. What
Right.
are some of the ways that you would look at that type of situation as a concept, whether you do have some medical records or not, and but you're missing that piece of the puzzle?
Being able to read the play, being like I like to like make football analogies. We're the
Hmm.
quarterback. I need to be able to read that defense when I line up. I need to be able to see it. I need to be able to look off the primary if I have to. I have to be able to anticipate. And that comes from looking at the claim file and looking at the rating decision. You're right. The higher level review, 99.9, I love it. I really do. But there are times where you look at the file and say, well, he needed a nexus. He didn't have it. She didn't have it. They gave me look at the favorable findings. They conceded the diagnosis. That's 90% of the battle. Uh,
Hmm.
I think maybe I do need a supplemental claim. I don't need the instant replay. I need to run a play, look at it again, and here I'm going to give you some more evidence. Um, it's really quantum thinking, but generally I like to have them when I see the file, getting the claim file, organizing it. And I'll talk to you about the AI we use to organize it. It has been a godsend. I don't want it to think for me. I'll do that myself. Thank you very much. But the time it saves to organize these 20,000 page files, and you find that needle in a haystack like that, where it used to take you weeks, if not months, to find it. Anyway, I digress briefly. Supplemental claim is a good thing in your situation. Like, maybe add some additional evidence, knowing what's in the claim file, and knowing which play to run and which lane to choose. Let me give you a higher level review example of how you can use the Board of Veterans Appeals and get its decision quicker on a higher level review. If your veteran is 80 years or older, and
Hmm.
you have that supplemental claim or that rating decision, and you think I need to run a higher level review instant replay, but I want to expedite it. I want to expedite it. You can file a direct review with the Board of Veterans Appeals, no evidence, and then you can file a motion for advancement of the docket based on the veteran's age, and they'll move your case to the front of the line.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things to work with. There's a lot of buttons here, and this like a cockpit of a Boeing 747. Knowing which ones and when to hit them is critical.
You brought up a really interesting point, and it's something that I have often talked with other veterans about is, sometimes people have these massive medical records. We're talking, they may have had some serious things go on. Medical records bloom. If you've ever been hospitalized, all of a sudden you have, like 1,000 pages when before
Yes.
you might have just had like five. And all of a sudden, and people often truly, they expect the person at the VA to be able to read the scriggly handwriting,
Mm.
understand what it's referring to, and go through 25, 30, 40,000 pages to find the
Yes.
evidence that you
Yes.
did in fact twist your knee on a unit run and that you went and saw the doctor like 4 or 5 times
Yes.
throughout a 20-year career.
Yes.
That's not super real. I mean, they're supposed to. They have this thing called the duty to assist, right?
Oh, we'll get into that if you want. Oh, yes.
Right. But they do, but there's also people on the other end of it. And I always say, hey, go through your medical records. You have a copy, at least you should, and pull out all the parts that relate to your knee and put them together. And so even though they may have a copy, boom, you're like, oh, here's my little clip it. It's the way every bureaucracy in the world works. If you hand them where the easy button is to say yes,
Yes.
then the easy button gets pushed. Because a
Yes.
bureaucrat's greatest power is what? The ability to say no. There's no risk in it.
That's absolutely right. And it's a great point. Yeah. 20,000 pages of medical records might just be one component of the other 6 to 7 components of a claim file. Where are the applications? Look at all the correspondence you're getting. Look at
Hmm.
all the decisions. Look at the service treatment records. Look at miscellaneous. Look at records, private records. You get the records from Capri. And then when let's go back in time just 10 years. When our firm had a new client, what did we do? We got our 2122A and our fee agreement, and we submitted them. We wrote them, we mailed them, and we asked for the claim file. 9 months later, here it comes on a disc, and now we print it. I'm 5'8", 5'8.5". Here's the claim file. And now, every one of those 7 subsections, imagine a 2,000, 20,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, all different variations, thrown in a box.
Hmm.
Go to a super center, a grocery store, a supermarket, and imagine every item in there just put in a box and thrown out into the parking lot. Now I have
Yeah.
to sort it. I have to sort it. How many hours and months of downtime? Now I need a someone with medical experience to summarize the medical, all of it. And here's the needles in the haystack I need you to find. Good luck with that. It's going to take a while. And you have a client. What's going on with my case? What's going on with my case? And you're doing everything you can to keep them calm while you do all this. Now, let's talk about 2025. We have an AI company that the National Organization of Veterans Advocates, they work with us. They are fantastic. I now, through VBMS, as an accredited veteran rep, I get a new client. I enter my appearance. A week later, I go in. I download that claim file instantly. I then work with the AI company to organize it. I'll have it within 30 minutes. I don't care how big or small it is. It's now organized in all 7 of those sections. I don't care how many pages are in there. I had a case where my client, she was convinced that they had ordered a sleep study in 2005 at a VA facility and they never had it done. Duty to assist. It was supposed to be done on a deferred decision. Duty to assist. They were supposed to work it up and have a sleep study. Nobody could seem to find the note. I did a word search. I had that one page out of 20,000 pages in half a second. And
Wow.
if you have 4 or 5 conditions and 3 of the 5 are accepted and you're happy with that, but the other 2 aren't, you can selectively search for the 2 that are not, and you will just get those summarized and separated, and you can download those or invite your expert into the software to read it with your questions. I'm getting my Nexus letters within 30, 45 days.
Wow. So this AI tool helps everything from the VA. It used to come on a compact disc and you'd have to print it and sort it.
Yes.
And now it's what it must be doing, some text recognition,
Yeah.
you know,
I
which
don't
is
want it.
great.
I don't want summaries. I don't want it to, I just want it. Well, I want it
Yeah.
to itemize. And then when it tells me, it shows me over here where it is. It gives me the link. I click on it. Then over here, I see the medical record for which it found the item. But it doesn't think for me. I will not. Hey, so that's another conversation.
Oh
I
yeah.
just want,
I'm really knowledgeable about AI, and
Mhm.
for some things it's awesome, but on things like handwritten notes,
Yeah.
like you'd have at a battalion aid station or back in the day. Everything was handwritten,
Uh,
and using electronic health records was sort of revolutionary at the time,
right.
which as everything's typed and it follows you and it's easy. But I have a friend I was talking to the other day. He's been out for 25 years now, and his entire medical record disappeared when he transferred and changed duty stations. And I was like, well, that's a real challenge. But
Yes.
can you find the people? We were talking about ways that you can prove that X, Y, or Z something happened, and then
Hmm.
it's now you have a current problem. But I was thinking about it. Even if you had these notes and they're all the handwritten scribble, how well does the AI work with that, or does it flag it for like human review or something like that?
It will make a good. It makes a good faith attempt, but
Hmm.
we make it a point of practice to read it and do our best to decipher it. We don't want it to because it's getting close. It's getting into the church, and oftentimes it's sitting in the pew. But we need to read it to be sure that it's the right pew. And we've those of us in this profession, or those who read the handwritten notes, we learn how to do it. Our
Yeah.
brains learn how to figure that stuff out. And so it's just weird. And the one thing I would advise anybody who's using AI to do the medical is still look at the handwritten things yourself, give it the benefit of the doubt. Like Reagan used to say, trust but verify. So
Oh, yes.
we look at all of that. We look at all the handwritten just to be sure. And I'll tell you what, it's batting all pro with it. There are some things we see, oh, that word or that word, but for the most part, it's getting it right.
That's pretty amazing. It's amazing, both that it's available, but also how much quicker it is to be able to modify and co get everything collated so you can do claims
Yes.
better, faster, and more accurately. I know the
Yes.
VA has invested a ton of money in automating these processes. Until recently, everyone who retired from the government had to uh, everything was sent to Pennsylvania, to one of the mines where they would then process it
Yeah.
and then mail it out. And then everything was entirely paper driven, which is
Yes.
in the year of our Lord 2025, shocking to me. But that was the process until earlier this year, I understand.
Yes.
And getting that so that claims are handled quicker and better. But that's also where the human element comes in when you've got these VA employees who are working very diligent and they're maybe
Yes.
super smart, but
Yes.
they don't have some of these tools where it summarizes and does all these things for them.
Right.
So they're going through and getting everything and trying to find that needle in the haystack. But it's a haystack of needles to try to find the right one.
Yes. You see that a lot. You see that a lot in the decisions. They may say that, well, there was nothing in the service treatment records to document this. Well, yeah, it is there respectfully, but we understand and respect what they're doing. I mean, it's almost like, and I'm not being facetious, I say this with empathy and in respect for what they do. It's like the Lucille Ball episode where her and Vivian are the assembly line and the
Yeah.
chocolates are coming out. And they get so many files a day here, and by the end of the day, they have to be here because there's another stack coming down the line.
Hmm.
Human error, as well intended and as hardworking as they are, our job is to take it from there. And with the tools we have and the team and the training of myself and other folks out there who do this, we can help find those things. And then when we file that higher level review, we'll add an addendum page to it, which lays everything out, or a supplemental claim, or a board appeal. We will lay out the chronology, what we saw, where we saw it. And then, so for the reviewer or on appeal, they see what that person who was working in good faith, they see what that person may have missed or may have misinterpreted, and now we give them a chance to fix it. And that type of preparation, training, and having the most up-to-date tools takes increases our chances of good results in fixing things.
No, that's absolutely my understanding of it as well. Is if you lay it out, like I was talking about earlier, it's a bureaucracy. If
Right.
if I give you A, B, and C, and they're expecting A, B, and C, boom, you're going to get the decision you wanted.
Hmm.
Um, Not always, but there's a lot of people who file for a lot of things that are, let's call it sometimes a little iffy.
The
I
shotgun 526 EZ.
Yes.
Put it up on the wall,
Hey,
yeah.
my arm hurts or my knees hurt, and I
Right.
was in the army as an admin clerk for 2 years, and then I spent 25 years as a roofer. Uh, and
Yeah,
you'll see
well,
things like
we
that.
see that. We do. Yeah, I mean, candor to your client. And what we'll say at the very beginning is, look, I need to see the claim file. We'll take a look. Send me the rating decision. We always remind them, let's get that to me as soon as you can, in case you've been chasing this for a while. But let's be very candid. Let's be very frank about what you put in for, and why you put in for it, and what we need to separate the wheat from the chaff here.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a rating decision with 20 claims that were put in, well, when you file a 526E to put in a claim, and we always say this to prospective clients or those just calling for advice, and we're always available, there's no obligation, and our colleagues in other firms do the same thing. Well, you have to have the diagnosis. Do you have knee? Have you been diagnosed with a knee problem? To your hypothetical, and then what happened? What was your MOS? Well, I was filing. Oh, and then what have you been doing since? Like you said, I've been doing masonry and roofing and professional wrestling, whatever it might be. So yeah, likely that the intervener has happened since you left service. Let's be honest about. Let's take the things away from this 20 applications. Let's take away the things realistically we're not going to see, and we'll spend a
Mm-hmm.
lot of energy chasing. Let's not tip at windmills. These ones over here, obstructive sleep apnea. Well, look at that. You've already been service connected for an emotional condition, and this is secondary to that based on the literature. That's a viable one. Oh, here's sinusitis and rhinitis, and you were around burn pits, and there's a confirmed diagnosis of it. We need to talk about that. Oh, and you have this shoulder injury, and there's something in the service treatment records about that incident in the Jeep. These here, based on your current level, I think we have a path to 100%. Let's take
Mm-hmm.
these other ones, these ancillary things that you just threw in there respectfully, well intended. We're not going to make any hay with these. These ones are, let's run these horses and let's get you where you need to be.
Yeah, and putting in for things early. That's what I always tell folks. Even if it's not really a problem right now, and so in my
Right.
hypothetical, my
Right.
knee hurts and you're
Yes.
just getting out, or it's been a year, but hey, yeah, you are having a little bit of knee problem, but it's just sort of achy sometimes. It's not like
Right.
probably not even 10%. It's probably 0%, but getting that service
Get it.
connection early. So
Get it.
when 20 years from now, when it really is giving you a problem, you've already overcome the big hurdles. How much do you see of that where people just want to make sure, hey, if it does get worse, I'm protected down the road?
We don't see enough of it. We don't see enough of that, and that's something that you're from your lips to God's ears and to the veterans' ears. Please, you're coming out. Most often, you're still relatively young. You're feeling good. You got that little achy knee, that little achy elbow, whatever else might be going on. Oh, I'll be okay. I'll deal with it later. No, put the 526 easy in. You know it was service connected, and the VA has a propensity. They can get more. I don't want to use the word defensive, but they go into, like, it seems to feel more like a prevent defense when you're in the red zone, when you're starting to go for high percentages. But if you're just trying to get an acknowledgement and an
Mm-hmm.
acceptance, even if, and under the Code of Federal Regulations, it'll tell you what your rating should be based on the symptoms and findings.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to give it to him, but we're only going to give it to him at 0 because he's not at the 10, 20, 30, 40. You're in. You have now poured your footer. And if in some time in the future, the symptoms start to exhibit that give you the 10, the 20, the 30, you can file a claim for an increase. Like you said, 90% of the battle has been won by filing and getting it at 0. Build from there. Because what happens if 20 years later, you wake up and that knee looks like a beach ball? And now you're going to be in for a battle because, well, why didn't you do this sooner? And then you have to hire someone like me to help you get there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that roofer example who does Nacho Libre on the weekends, but he did have some, issue with his knee while he's in service. But then with all the intervening years, it's much more likely
Yes.
that the problem was from these other things. If he had locked
Yes.
it in early,
Yes.
even if you're not getting any benefit except for the service connection, because that is the hardest hill to overcome sometimes, most of the time,
It
because
is.
everything else is, objective medical evidence of, yes, you have a problem with your
It
knee and it's this, that, or the other.
it will be a battle if there are interveners, even if you get the 0 right out of the gate and you have interveners, your Nacho Libre, and you're doing the
Hmm.
roofing and trampoline stunts or whatever else it might be. But the fact is that you do have a foundation. If a medical
Yep.
expert will look at everything in that scenario and say, look, I still think it's at least likely as not that what's driving this disability train has its genesis in service. Yes, you're absolutely right. But documentation, get it in there early, file it, and yeah, get as much off the table as you can. And the big battle is getting a confirmed diagnosis. For them to concede that, once they concede it, they can't take it away, except in very limited circumstances, and they have a due process mountain that high.
Now, did you read that Washington Post article the other day about these people that had been faking all these blindness and being paralyzed and then going and doing trampolines? And what
Yes,
struck me, and I've heard these cases, I've investigated things like this, workers' comp fraud, things like that. I've worked those cases.
yes,
The most, and what struck me from this article was most of them were from like 10, 15 years ago. It's not like this epidemic, and they're
no,
so
it's
egregious.
mhm.
That's I can't get out of a wheelchair. And then as soon as you leave the appointment, you're like walking out and, doing all these things. Like,
Yes.
really? Or I'm blind, but you have a driver's license and you drove to the appointment. Like, come on. How often do you see people that we know that people have challenges getting the real benefits that they need, and we nobody needs these black eyes of these fraudsters and scammers, but it must be exceedingly rare for people to be so egregiously faking it.
It's incredibly rare. I've been doing this a long time. Here's how many of those I've had. I've seen them in the state Pennsylvania workers' compensation cases that we handle. There's
Hmm.
some folks that have come in and misrepresented, and they were caught red-handed, and they weren't our clients for very much longer after that. But I haven't seen it. I have not seen it, and I think to your point that it is extremely rare. And then you've done the investigative work in your career. Is the fact that this story that was out there talked about these incidents from 10, 15 years ago. And we can't allow that situation to create a false narrative about claims that are being filed. For every one of those egregious examples from almost 20 years ago, there have been hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of legitimate claims filed with no chicanery involved whatsoever.
Yeah,
So let's keep it
and
in its
things take a
context.
long time to go through, and the fact that they must have been exceptionally consistent when they were dealing with the
Yes,
VA, and
yes.
so it shows that the VA is really, in general, not always, but in general, more inclined to benefit the veteran than not. I mean, something like 70% of the people that work at the VA are veterans.
Yeah,
Uh,
yes. It's called the benefit of the doubt standard is codified and cited in case law. The
mhm.
equipoise standard. If the evidence is equal, if there's a report that says no benefit and a report that says yes benefit, the law says you must go heads the veteran wins in that situation, tails the veteran wins in that situation. And the benefit of the doubt, when all else fails, you got to give them that's all codified. So absolutely. So it really takes a real lightning strike from some absurd behavior. It's not what is happening out there in the real world. That article does not represent what's happening in the real world. No.
No, I saw it and I was like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
I saw
Right.
the article and I was like, well, I'll bring it up. I was thinking about it. So one last thing I want to talk to you about before we switch to SSDI,
Okay.
as a corollary, but let's talk about claim sharks. What are
Yeah.
claim sharks? What should you look for? Obviously, if you're having trouble with the VA and you've got a complex case, you probably want an attorney. We also have, VSOs. There's lots of places you can turn, but there's a bunch of scammers and people trying to make a buck from your VA claim.
Yes.
So what are these claim sharks as they're called?
Let me take a step back on how we work and then compare and contrast to what they're doing. For me to represent a veteran, I had to go through additional levels of training and seminar, not seminar, but additional levels of training and outreach through the VA to get an accreditation to be an accredited VA representative. You do not have to be an attorney to get accreditation. There's a lot of great folks out there with accreditation who have to go through these extra thresholds to be acknowledged as such. The claim sharks do not. We are capped on our fees. 20% of any back pay retroactive monies due on secondary filings. A 526EZ is how you start your claim. If I file a 526EZ for you as a courtesy to get you started, and you hit and jackpot and it goes back however far it goes, that money is yours 100%. If it is wrong and I file an appeal, one of those higher level SUPs, boards, and we hit, I get 20% of only what is back due. So if your retroactive award is $100, we get 20, you get 80. Our slate is clean. If we advance expenses, we would ask you only if successful to reimburse us. Not so with the claim shark. The claim shark will get you to sign these contracts. They will then file 526EZ claims for you, the initial claim. And if you win, they will come in at exorbitant rates. I've seen 45, 50% of your cut. They won it. And they will come after you, and they will behave in intimidating fashion. There is an ambiguity in how the statute is written about that 20% fee that created an opening which claim sharks are driving a truck through. What is the opening? Former mayor talking to you. There's no teeth in the statute. We need teeth in the statute to put them on this and to get in and follow the same standard. And they, after the initial claim, they're not going out to get the next. It's not many of them, not that I've seen. The biggest problem is taking huge excess of 20% fees on initial claims, which violates. We're not allowed to do that, and we're capped, and we honor that code. They are not obligated. They have no boundaries on them. It's an inconsistent balance, and they don't respectfully have the training or experience the accredited representatives have, in my opinion.
So the accredited folks, the max they can do is on 20% on the secondary claims.
Yeah.
And these claim sharks will ask for 50%, 45, something like that of anything you get. What are some of the other signs or indications that somebody is probably not a really legit, approved by the VA representative? Because I was thinking about some of these, I see the ads, for people that are help with your claim, and it's not from a VFW, it's not a Veteran Service Organization, or one of those, hey, I recognize, but they claim that they have insider access, or they're gonna get your claim through faster. What are some of the other things that somebody that's sitting in my shoes as a veteran, I want to file a claim, I'm kind of intimidated. This looks like the easy button.
Guarantees. They're making guarantees. It's too well. What was the movie? Brad Pitt, Inglorious Bastards, when he was sitting with the colonel, and the colonel was offering him a deal. He goes, "Back where I come from, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true." They're telling you that if you're getting 30%, it's not enough. We guarantee you we're going to get you to 50. We guarantee you this. We think that if you're not at 100%, they got it wrong. If your rating is 30, it's wrong. That's dangerous. That is dangerous because here's the problem. Then they're guaranteeing you success. Nobody can make a guarantee. We don't guarantee, nor are we allowed. I can guarantee you we will do, and my colleagues who practice law for veterans across the world will do everything we can do to do the best possible for you and do the best possible outcome. But we have no guarantees. Guarantees is a big red flag. And here's the other one. Here's the thing to be very careful about. Oh, I'm at 30% and they guarantee me they can give me more. You better be careful you open that Pandora's box, because if you're in a certain time frame and a certain criteria, you put that claim in for an increase with these characters, the VA will write you back maybe. Good news. We agree with you. It shouldn't be 30%. We think it should be 0. And now you're off to the races. You have just opened a Pandora's box of bullshit, excuse my language. And that claim shark might be off to the next fish by that point.
Right.
Be careful.
No, and so these are all good things. Is there a way to check to see if someone is accredited with the VA? I don't know that I've ever thought about that. Obviously, I know about VA accreditation, but I don't know if there's like a place to look it up.
I would look with the Department of Veterans Affairs, the National Organization of Veterans Advocates, of which I'm a member. It is an organization. I'm a member here in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Association for Justice. It's a great
Hmm.
organization to do our issues here in PA, but the National Organization of Veterans Advocates, if you're accredited and you're out there and you're not a member already, look up NOVA. It is a godsend. That is a good place to start. Our network, our pages, our listservs, our twice a year meetings are invaluable. You get the best and brightest lawyers and advocates and accredited reps and the vendors like the AI company I'm talking about and medical experts come. And it twice a year, it is a jamboree of people getting together to help our veterans. That's where you look for a place. You start with a place like Nova and the VA to see who is accredited and who isn't. And honestly, these claim sharks are right now to me a pariah on this system, and stay away from them. Go with someone who's accredited, and they will honor their code and honor the rules.
Yeah, pox on their houses. So
That's
I
what
want
I
to move on
said.
a little bit about we've 100% VA. We've got a lot of people that really get injured after their service,
Mhm.
and things happen, cancers, all sorts of stuff, and they're not able to work. And I've talked about this on the show. There's different levels of 100% at the VA.
Yes.
We've talked about where you can't work and your rating is 70 or 90, but they'll pay you at the 100% rate. And we've talked about that.
TDIU. Yes.
Yep.
Hmm.
Total disability insurance, TDI, what is it? What is TDIU? I can't remember
Yeah.
the acronym all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, I blanked myself. As soon as we're done, I'll
Yeah.
get it. Yeah,
I'm
it's there.
horrible with acronyms.
You say it 1,000 times, and now it's out. It's in one ear. But
As
it's
soon as I ask, boom.
individual unemployability,
There
IU.
we go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we have that. And then we also have SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance, which is available to everyone as long as you've worked, I think, more than 40 periods, whatever. I don't know
Quarters,
if that's months or years.
earning
Okay.
quarters. Yes.
So let's talk about SSDI. So we have somebody, let's take our fictional example. They were in service, they got out, they have cancer or whatever it is, and they can't work. And so the VA says, yes, we agree with you. Boom, you have cancer. You've got 100% while you have the cancer rate. That's the way they do it. And soon as if you're healthy again, boom, it goes back down to whatever your normal rating was. But
Yes.
let's say it lasts, it's going to be a couple year fight. I have a friend of mine that's dealing with cancer right now, and she is doing a great fight and is doing wonderful, but
Prayers
wasn't
to
really
her.
able to work.
And
And I
prayers
was
to
like,
others.
oh.
Mm.
And how do you go about what are the parallels with the VA, but also what are the differences between the VA process for 100% and SSDI?
I'll do the best I can to condense that because it's a
Yeah,
lot.
it is.
But let's start with the basic root of difference. Uh, to get a veteran disability benefit at any level, the disability has to be connected to your service.
Hmm.
And even if you get 100% through service connection, and I'll talk about the TDIU component. Uh, if you get 100% for service connected disability as a veteran, maybe 70% PTSD, and then you have 50 for sleep apnea, and a bunch of others in it, that whole combined rating thing. But you do get to 100. You can still be working. You can still be working. In VA law, under the individual unemployability, if you have a single rating at 60 or one at 40, combined 70, and they keep you from working and you can't work because of those, I can then throw a pass from the 30-yard line into the end zone to try to get you 100, but you have to be unable to work.
Hmm.
That's where we start to transition over to Social Security disability. So 100% in VA world doesn't mean that you are unable to work unless it's TDIU, where the disability is at 70 or higher, keep you from working.
Right.
Social Security disability, you have to be totally and completely disabled from any and all substantial gainful activity. But what's the difference? It doesn't have to be service connected. So Nacho Libre, who had some knee problems and then wrestled and was getting thrown off of steel cages, Maybe there are some things from service that are connected, but it's quite obvious he can't work anymore because he's been thrown off too many steel cages. It doesn't matter how it happened, just that it did happen and that
Hmm.
he cannot work substantial gainful activity anymore. So that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off between the
So
two.
let's you mentioned substantial gainful activity. I'm sure that means something in the legal world as opposed to what I would imagine it is.
Mhm.
What does that mean in terms of SSDI
It
or in
means
the law in general, I guess?
substantial gainful activity in plain non-lawyer English means a real job, a real job that you're able to do on a sustained basis, not
Hmm.
some gimme job, not one of those jobs you see on The Sopranos where they're sitting around the construction site reading the newspaper. No disrespect, no, but real work. We have
Well,
sheltered
you
work.
are in Pittsburgh, so I would imagine
No, we
you've seen
uh,
it,
no, I have not. You see it though. I mean, you see somebody make a job for their son or their nephew or their family
Hmm.
member or their neighbor. Oh, I'll give you something to do. Just, deliver these newspapers or go sit with so and so in the truck, and uh, things, accommodations being made to for the person because of their inability. Something that an employer outside of the family or a friend doing a favor would not tolerate more than two absences a month or in the VA for the TDIU, sometimes they'll say, well, we're not giving you TDIU because you're working. Well, you're working for your next door neighbor at the construction site, but you're going up to the supply store or you're running over to McDonald's to grab coffees, and you're pretty much just walking around to see if anybody needs you to do something for them. And
Hmm.
you're missing work 2 to 3 times or 4 times a month. That's not substantial gainful. Or if the job you're doing is like nominal below the poverty threshold, then that doesn't count either. So substantial
So
gainful
what about
activity.
podcast host?
Oh,
Would
that's
that?
real work. That's no, no, that's real work. No, of course, no, it's yeoman's work.
But
You're
no, I mean
but
that in a real sense, in that, like we don't make any money, but it's not, I'm not getting paid, but
uh-huh.
could you do something like that even if you are unable to work a real job, as I would say?
If you were doing something, that's a good hypothetical. If you were doing a podcast and you're doing it gratis because you love what you do, you went to a Social Security disability hearing and you're saying, I'm completely disabled from any and all substantial gainful activity. Well, the judge is going to say, well, what do you do? And there's going to be a very thorough, by the time you get to the administrative law judge, the file's already been read and they're looking to see, well, what do you think you can do? What do you do in an average day? Do you have any hobbies? Do you have any activities? And in the room with you and the judge is a vocational expert, a professional job hunter. And the judge will say, you've heard the testimony, you've read the file. That's true. This person does podcasting. That is right. Can you make any associations with any jobs in the local or national economy that this person's capable of doing? Well, based on the fact that they're a podcaster, yes. There are jobs under the Department of Occupational Titles that are matched and comparable to podcasting, which pay money. And here's what they are: 50,000 in the local economy, 300,000 in the national. So I think this person could work if they wanted to. So that's how that would work, most likely.
Hmm. That's an
So,
interesting one because, anybody could do a podcast. I mean, quite honestly, and if you
oh
look
no,
around,
no, I beg to differ. I don't know. I
or
beg to,
video, or I mean,
yeah,
most anyone, absent some
yeah.
significant mental incapacitation. But I've seen people, I know people that are in wheelchairs that are almost completely immobile that are
Mhm.
able to do it, and so that's a fascinating thing for me.
That's the flip side. If that person, to your hypothetical, is in the courtroom and the vocational expert rattles off all those jobs, then I have to ask a vocational expert, well, assume for this hypothetical that the person, the individual you're talking about, has these limitations, that they have to sit and stand as needed, that because of their migraines, they have to lie down for hours, that they can work at their own pace, that they can do this only when they feel physically able to, which in this case is ABC 1, 2, 3. Do those hundreds of thousands of jobs exist in the local and national economy when I add those hypothetical facts? I can get them down to zero. Yeah.
So that's what I was sort of getting to, is that it is really situationally dependent.
Yes.
Uh, and would you compare roughly? Obviously, this is a art, not a science.
Mhm.
My understanding is that SSDI is way harder than getting to 100% at the VA level, just in broad terms.
I think it's fact-based. I think it
Okay.
depends. I think it depends on what your situation is. I mean, I've had cases where I thought, oh, we're gonna go right in and get the 100% on this, and it's a struggle. It's a battle. Conversely, I've had them where I thought, well, this is going to be a lift, and next thing you know, you get a rating decision at 100. And in Social Security as well, I've had them where I thought this one's going to be a lift, and it wasn't, and vice versa. I've been an attorney in since Reagan was president, and every file and every case I've had are like individual fingerprints.
Hmm.
There's never been one that's the same. I
Literally
don't think
special snowflakes.
they are. Yes, I mean, I don't think one uh, case, SSDI or VA, there's they are both. You need to be very prepared, understand the nuances of both of these, and they're constantly in flux,
Hmm.
and be ready to do the best you can. But there's no one that's kicking the hell out of the other one. They can both be as generous and they can both be as stingy, but the one thing they won't be is giving it away. You better be ready. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this, it may be showing my ignorance, and I may be misremembering, but I recall something that if you are 100% from the VA and apply for SSDI, they sort of fast track your application. Is there any truth to that, or am I just misremembering?
I don't think that they fast track them, and as it's a very compelling piece of evidence to have when you've gotten to 100% in the VA. If you're at 100% at the VA and you're taking it over, what I'll do is I'll get those rating decisions and I will file them as exhibits in the Social
Hmm.
Security disability case. Is it an effective? Is it an effective piece of evidence? Absolutely. Does it fast track or punch your ticket to a guaranteed win? Unfortunately, it doesn't. I'm shocked when an administrative law judge will deny a claim for Social Security disability when I submit a rating decision at 100% with intricate, explicit details in the findings as to why this person can't work and why they're at 100. They should walk you right in, but they don't. It's not a given. It's not a presumptive, so to speak.
So the other question I had about SSDI, what are the timelines? We know the VA ones. We've talked about them on the show just now. We were
Yes.
talking about, the law judges, and what is the process with the SSDI to do that? Like, I'm really
Sure.
not very familiar with that at all.
Well, you talked earlier about the period of time and the earnings and like the entitlements. They're called quarters. The
Hmm.
minute, so here, the minute you start working, here's the earning quarters. You're at zero because you've never worked before, and here you come. You start working. The minute you start working, and the more you work, this is the work. This is the work calendar. These are the quarters. They start to get ahead of you like a shadow at sunset. And then here's the day I stop working because I am now disabled from any and all substantial gainful activity. The shadow now stops. It is in the future. Depending on how long you work, depends on how far into the future it is. If you should file the claim right away.
Hmm.
If you wait till you file it on the calendar when you're over here now and your entitlement ended here, you then have to prove that you were totally and completely disabled back here before the shadow stopped. So it's better to file it while you can and then offer your evidence that while you were in this zone of eligibility, you were not able to work. And then how do you do it? You go to www.ssa.gov, and it is as easy as a 526 easy. You click it, you're at a level one. They'll probably put you in touch with your regional office, and they are everywhere. And you will do the claim. They may ask you to sign medical authorizations. 1 out of 50 at level one gets granted, no matter how sick you are or disabled. You have 60 days to file a reconsideration, which is like an analogy is a higher level review. Hey,
Hmm.
guys, look at it again. I think you got it wrong. They may go gather some more evidence on their own, or you could file some. Maybe it cuts the denials in half. You have 60 days to file an appeal to an administrative law judge who does a de novo, which is a clean slate review, looks at everything again, and you can offer additional evidence up to the hearing and after if you need to.
So what are the timelines for SSDI? Because I understand that you're not able to work for a year or expected to not be able to work for a
Yes,
year.
I
But if it takes
misunderstood.
4 years to get your claim,
Yeah, no,
what
yeah,
are the timelines in your experience?
timeline.
Obviously, each case is different.
Each case is different, but yeah, so you have to be totally and completely disabled from any and all substantial gainful. We talked about that, but the disability has to be at least a year. That does not mean you have to wait 365 days to file. If you have stopped work, if I stopped work yesterday and my doctors are giving me a prognosis that I am not going to be able to go back to work for at least a year, I can file right now.
Hmm.
If you're not working and if you stopped and you don't know what the prognosis is and you file now, they're probably going to deny you because they're going to say we have no medical evidence that tells us that it's going to be at least 365 days. If you keep appealing because you disagree and in your heart you know you can't work, and by the time you get to an administrative law judge, it's been more than a year, well, then there, you've made your case through time and through you'll
Yeah.
necessarily evidence. Uh, so we tell folks, don't wait a year if you have a prognosis that takes you past the 365. Do it, and then it usually you're looking from the day you filed at a level one, you're looking at about 12 to 18 months for a hearing.
Okay, so a little bit faster than VA sometimes, but
A little bit,
not
a little
always.
bit. No, not always, but I've noticed they've been doing in the last few years. I've been very pleased with how they've been doing this. It used to be long,
Hmm.
like Board of Veterans Appeal hearings. And again, I'm not rapping the BVA, man. They're working their tails off. It's just they're inundated. They have a lot of work. They come to our
Yeah.
Nova meetings. They're doing everything they can to keep it moving. It's just if you don't have to have it, what we'll do, I'm digressing a little bit. It does take a while. It's not as long as it used to be. Uh, I would recommend, unless you absolutely think a board judge needs to hear your client live, but you want them to hear your client, do a deposition, file the
Hmm.
board appeal under the additional evidence lane. You have 90 days. Take a deposition, depose the people you want the board to hear, and then submit those transcripts within the 90 days. That will save a couple of years off your wait.
Oh, wow. So that way they're not scheduling a hearing in person, but you
No,
still get to make your case.
you can make your case. And the best of both worlds. I have one right now. We're trying to get some benefits for a veteran. He doesn't get presumptive for Agent Orange, but there's other conditions as well. Well, you take the deposition. You take the deposition. You do the additional evidence lane, and once we get to the 91st day, I'll file a motion to advance on the docket. He goes right to the front of the line.
So the SSDI, we've talked about the standards that we have at the VA that are very veteran benefit, presumptives and not just presumptive, standards of evidence. It's essentially like a search warrant, more likely than not, which is a
Hmm.
low standard. I don't people realize that people how low of a standard that is. That isn't even like, yeah, I'm really sure. No, this is probably 51% likely. What is the Social Security use? What kind of standards? What kind of evidence? I bet you it's not quite as generous as the VA.
No, the most generous is the oh that was a she, by the way, the expedited review. Yeah, outstanding. But anyway, tactics. The standard that the Security Disability uses, uh, you've heard preponderance of the evidence or beyond a reasonable doubt,
Hmm.
clear and
We've all seen Law
convincing.
and Order.
Yeah, we all see it. Beyond a reasonable doubt is a criminal defense because life, liberty is at stake. It's way you get the prosecution gonna be way up here. Um, Clear and unmistakable is somewhere in between that and preponderance. It's not as high, but you still got to do your work. Preponderance is as long as I have one pebble more than the other guy, I should win. That's a civil case. Then you have the VA, which is equipoise. Benefit of the
Hmm.
doubt, 50, at least likely is not 50-50. What's the standard in Social Security? Uh, it's really just you have to find them to be totally and completely disabled from any all substantial gainful. We don't argue any one of those specific buzzwords. We ask them to weigh it all. We try to make analogies to the VA because the two are under the same roof. They're like the twins. They just have like the Siamese twins with a few different criteria. We try to make it like all things being equal, you should give this individual a break. But we're not, we're dealing with civilians in addition to veterans over there as well. So we don't necessarily get that same 50-50 threshold. Preponderance is a fair way to put it, I think.
So one of my other questions dealing with SSDI is A, can you have it in addition to the VA? Like if you get a VA rating and hey, you're 100%, can you then also go to SSDI and have both? Or do they
Yes.
offset or, I'm not
No.
sure how that works.
No, you can have one and go in and get the other as well. No, one does not preclude the other at all. No, that's not how it works. So we always tell our vets if you we can chase individual unemployability if your VA service connected is at those criteria, get me to 70 or 60
Hmm.
single, we'll go for it. Or if they're at 100 or if they're 80, 90 combined, but they can't work for veteran reasons, for VA service connected and other non-service connected, get over there and file that claim. There's no reason why you shouldn't be going for both. We see that a lot. And oftentimes we've worked with the veteran for so long that when the conversation comes up, if not initially, inevitably it comes up, well, now I was working, now I can't. Get that claim filed because 99% of what we need is already over here for what we've been doing for so many years or however long it's been. We can just get that right over into the Social Security file at level 1 or level 2 for you. We may not even have to get to a judge. We will inundate them with so much powerful evidence right out of the gate that they should just not waste anybody's time and give you the SSDI. We always encourage them to do it because we already have most of what they need to get that claim granted.
So the other question is, if you're a 10% with kids, there's this whole VA chart of, how they come up with whatever they're going to send you, but you can look it up. That's is pretty easy to do.
It
How in the
is.
world does Social Security disability insurance work?
It's not. They base it on your earnings.
Hmm.
They base it on what you have made, and then they make a calculation of what your entitlement would be. So the person that's making a much higher income over time is going to recognize a higher monthly benefit than the individual who say may be working, not a lucrative salary, but perhaps an hourly position, something that doesn't pay as much. So it's really Social Security Disability's monthly award rate, if you get it, it's an all or nothing. It's not a 50, a 60, a 70. You're either disabled from working or you're not. But if you win, what you get monthly based on what you put in and what you earned for your work career. Whereas this VA, 100% is 100% no matter how much you made or how much you worked. 50% is 50%. It's a grid and you can go right to it and see what your number would be.
Right. So that's probably one of the biggest things I would imagine people are unaware of. If you look up on the VA, you can see exactly, you can go calculate it. I'm 50% and I have a
Yeah.
wife and two kids or three kids or 20 kids and you just add
Yeah.
that up. And
And then
then
it's the combined
over in
ratings.
SSDI, it's a black box, but I bet you there's a website or something where you could probably put it in, but it's probably
Yes,
very complicated and
it is.
uh,
Yeah, but
uh,
it will tell you. You can go to their website and put in, you can punch in the variables and they'll tell you. They'll tell you if you win, this is what you'll get. What is your
okay.
income? There on www.ssa.gov. Get there first, follow the prompts, ask the question. They will show you where to go to calculate what you would get. Because I've had clients or potential clients call and say, well, if I win, I'm going to get this because I ran it on the VA webpage or the SSA webpage. So you can get that answer on your own based on your individual situations. Yes.
We have talked about a number of things, and I've learned a bunch. I've really been interested in some of these topics. I was like, well, how does that SSDI thing work?
Hmm.
Especially when I work with some folks that have been, grievously injured and they've been marginally employed and it's really difficult.
Right.
And then they lose their job, because they're going to so many appointments and all these things. I'm like, I think there should be more out there. And, SSDI is one of those. And that's what sort of got me interested in wanting to talk to you, Jim, is like some of these folks really need that extra help
They
of,
should go for it. And
get those things because, the VA 100% is pretty generous, but it's not, you're not living large. And if you have a
no,
car and a house and you're trying to find, and apartments are expensive and all these things add up very quickly. And so I was
yes.
thinking, golly, let's figure this out. Jim, I've asked you a bunch of things, but I'm sure there's something I should have asked you up but haven't. What should I have
Um,
asked you?
well, how do I talk to someone? You know, I'm worried about making a phone call. I'm worried about picking up the phone and then being obligated to somebody, or
Hmm.
make sure they're accredited. That way you won't get bit by a claim shark. Make sure they're accredited. Go to Nova, go to the VA, and get the list. Nova should be able to provide it as or help you lead you that way. Nova is the mecca. It is the mecca to answer that question. And then from there, ask questions. Don't wait. I'll get around to it. I just got out of service. I feel pretty good. Don't wait. Talk to someone. Nobody's going to put a hook into you and obligate you and then come like Rumpelstiltskin in 5 years. None of that. None of that. Talk to someone. Get your questions answered. It's like you're coming out of service and you're not sure. It's like walking around and transitioning into civilian life can be overwhelming enough just in and of itself because the structure out here is so different from what you all are accustomed to. So ask one of us. And like the hypothetical or the analogy of walking around in a dark house, we will do everything we can to turn on as many lights for you as possible so you can see down the field. And we will always be, and my colleagues who do this around the world will always be a call, an email, or a text away to give you some insight and guidance. And it all comes at no obligation. You've done so much for us. It's the least we can do for all of you.
Jim, thank you so much for coming on Coming Home Well. I've learned a bunch. I was some of these topics I've looked up a little bit, but we focus so much on specifically veterans benefits, but the SSDI part is fascinating for those who need it. It's
Yes,
available, and there's a lot more people on it, I'm sure, just because
there
the
are.
way the world is. There's a lot more people than there are veterans, but
Yes,
there's a world of challenges there as well.
yes,
And I'm sure a lot of the same advice applies to finding someone to help you with SSDI, though there's a lot less veteran service organizations that would probably be able to do SSDI. So it's a little bit more, you probably need a lawyer even more,
yes.
I would imagine, especially 1% gets through the first time and things like that.
It is. And again, the veteran benefits and the SSDI and vice versa, starting from the VA over to SSDI, they often do go hand in hand.
Hmm.
And I provided you some hypotheticals and some general scenarios of how it works with some examples. There's always a way to find a path, but I do strongly recommend if you're in the VA system and you're looking to get service connected and increases and you're not working, you owe it to yourself to speak to your VA accredited representative about SSDI, and if they don't do it, I guarantee they'll know somebody who does, and they'll get you in very good hands.
Jim, thank you so much for coming on Coming Home Well. I've learned a ton. If anybody wants to reach out and talk to Jim, get that free consultation, I'll put his contact information on the show notes so you don't have to write it down while you're driving. That's when I listen to podcasts most of the time. When I'm going from one place to another, taking the kids somewhere, that's when I usually do it. But we'll have it in the show notes. Jim, I leave you with the last word. Is there anything else you'd like to share that I maybe have forgotten to ask?
You have asked what I had just said a minute ago. Don't hesitate to pick up the phone, speak to someone, speak to an accredited rep. You have given me and so many others the opportunity to sit here in a free democratic republic and provide this service to you and your comrades for what you have done to make this the strongest nation in the world. It's the least we can do. No obligation. We'll answer any questions you have. If we can't help you, we will not BS you. We'll tell you why. And if it's not something we do, we will get you into competent hands of someone who does. Talk to someone who knows what they're doing. Get those questions answered.
Folks, we've been talking with Jim Burns, a junior. who's an attorney in the Pittsburgh area, and he handles a lot of veterans benefits, also has a lot of experience with SSDI and a number of things. We'll put the link to the organization's website in the show notes. Jim, thank you again for spending the time with us to see it from the trenches of the lawyering of helping these veterans get the benefits that they deserve.
It's been great to be with you. I really enjoyed our conversation. That was a very fast hour. It's great to talk about things that you have a passion for with someone who has a passion as well. It's been a privilege to be with you tonight.
Until all are home and all are well, this is Coming Home Well.
Thanks for joining us this week on Coming Home Well with Dr. Tyler Pieron. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well, this is Coming Home Well.